Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading 6th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam of 2nd canto, text 38. Yasya Vatara Karmani Gayanti Hi Asmad Adaya Na Yam Vedanti Tatvena Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha Yasyavatara Karmani Gayanti Asmadadaya Nayam Vedanti Tatvena Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha Yasyavatara Karmani Gayanti Asmadadaya Nayam Vedanti Tatvena Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha Yasyavatara Karmani Gayanti Asmadadaya Nayam Vedanti Tatvena Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha
Yasyavatara Karmani
Yasyavatara Karmani
Gayanti Yasmaradaya
Gayanti Yasmadadaya
Yam Vedanti Tatvena
Nayam Vedanti Tatvena
Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha
Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha Yasyavatara Karmani
Gayanti Yasmatadayaha
Gayanti Yasmadadaya
Nayam Vidanti Tatvena
Nayam Vedanti Tatvena
Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha
Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha
Yasyavatara Karmani
Yasyavatara Karmani
Gayanti Hasmadadayaha
Gayanti Yasmadadaya
Nayam Vidanti Tatvena
Nayam Vedanti Tatvena
Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha
Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha
Yasyavatara Karmani
Yasyavatara Karmani
Gayanti Yasmadadayaha
Gayanti Yasmadadaya
Nayam Vedanti Tatvena
Nayam Vedanti Tatvena
Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha
Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha
Yasyavatara karmani
Yashavatara karmani
gayanti asmad adaya
Gayanti Asmadadaya
nayam vidanti tatvenya
Naya Vedanti Tatvena
tasmai bhagavate namaha.
Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha
Yasyavatara karmani
Yashavatara karmani
Gayanti Asmad Adayaha
Gayanti Asmadadaya
Nayam Vedanti Tatvena
Naya Vedanti Tatvena
Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha.
Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha. That was everyone. Everyone chanted. So we'll do the word by word synonyms. Yasha. Oh, somebody wants to chant?
Yasyavatara karmani
Yashavatara karmani
Gayanti asmadadayaha
Nayanti Asmadadaya
Nayam Vedanti Tatvena
Maya Vedanti Tatvena
Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha.
Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha. Anyone else like to chant? Yes, thank you very much for that. So I'll do the word by word synonyms. Yasha, whose? Avatara, incarnation. Karmani, activities. Gayanti, chanting glorification. He, indeed. Asmat Adaya, persons like us. Na, do not. Yam, whom. Vedanti, no. Tatvena, 100% as he is. Tasmai, unto him. Bhagavate, unto the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. Nama, respectful obeisances. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto that Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose incarnations and activities are chanted by us for glorification, though he can hardly be fully known as he is. It is said that the transcendental name, form, quality, pastimes, paraphernalia, personality, and so forth cannot possibly be perceived by the gross materialistic senses. But when the senses are purified by the process of hearing, chanting, remembering, and worshiping the lotus feet of the holy deity and so forth, the Lord reveals himself proportionately to the advancement of the quality of devotional service. Ye yata mam prapadyante. One should not expect the Lord to be an order-supplying agent who must be present before us as soon as we desire to see him. We must be ready to undergo the prescribed devotional duties, following the path shown by the predecessors in the disciplic succession from Brahma, Narada, and similar authorities. As the senses are progressively purified by bona fide devotional service, the Lord reveals his identity according to the spiritual advancement of the devotee. But one who is not in the line of devotional service can hardly perceive him simply by calculations and philosophical speculations. Such a hard worker can present a jugglery of words before an audience, but can never know the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his personal feature. The Lord has clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita that one can know him only by devotional service. No one can know the Lord by any puffed up material process of challenge, but the humble devotee can please the Lord by his earnest devotional activities. Thus, the Lord reveals himself proportionally before the devotee. Lord Brahma therefore offers his respectful obeisances as a bona fide spiritual master and advises us to follow the process of Shravana and Kirtan. Simply by this process, or simply by hearing and chanting the glories of the activities of the Lord's incarnation, one can certainly see within himself the identity of the Lord. We have already discussed this subject in volume 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam in connection with this verse. Chaghada munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya pashanti atmani chitnanam bhaktya shutta gritaha. Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, Chapter 2, Text 12. The conclusion is that one cannot know the Supreme Personality of Godhead fully by any method, but he can be seen and felt partially by the devotional service, devotional process of hearing and chanting and so forth. So yeah, this is a really nice verse. There's a lot of really good things to say about it. And the first thing that kept coming to my mind was when I was in Canada in 1978, I was doing Sankirtan. Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj was there, and he was giving some classes. And what he said the Lord is known as mystery within infinity. And he gave the example. He said it's just like the ocean. The ocean is very, very wide and it's very, very deep. It's basically, you can't actually really fathom its depths and width, right? But he says, so it's like someone is getting into the water, and someone's a little deeper, a little farther in the water, and somebody's really way out in the water, but nobody can say that they have experienced and seen the whole ocean. So as they said, so it's like that. So it's like, coming into devotional service, like, kind of getting our toes wet, getting our feet wet, right? Getting initiated, the process of Bhajana Kriya, association and faith, and initiation, and approaching the spiritual master. So there was an example that was given in the class that I listened to. This is Rupa Goswami was saying to Sanatana Goswami, he's saying, okay, well, you're not my brother, they were brothers, right? But he said, but you are my spiritual master. Lord Chaitanya left Sanatana Goswami in charge of the 6 Goswamis. So he says, because you know the conclusion of Krishna in devotional service, Krishna Bhakti, like that, but no one can actually know the Supreme Lord in full. And the other thing that kept coming to mind too, in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which was discussed a lot of times when I first joined, was the specific aspect that Krishna takes inventory of himself, right? And he wants to understand himself. That's the whole idea about Lord Chaitanya being the combined form of Radha and Krishna again, to understand what Radharani actually is feeling for Krishna, like that. What is Krishna prema and Krishna love? So he's the incarnation that chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but he's none other than the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra himself, like that, and exhibits Maha Bhava ecstasies unparalleled anywhere in history or in the whole universe, completely unparalleled Mahabhavas, melting stones and elongating his joints and like that, foam coming to his mouth, losing consciousness. And so that Krishna tries to take inventory of himself. He wants to understand what his self is. And as soon as he can, there's unlimited spiritual planets and unlimited forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's within each and every atom of millions of universes, and there's trillions and trillions and trillions of atoms in just one universe. We can't even really count them all, right? Can't even count all the atoms probably in this room, in this building, or within this whole city or state, like that. So, we're talking about like phantoms. The size of the universe is given in Srimad Bhagavatam and the Surya Siddhanta. It's really very large. So what happens if when Krishna takes inventory of himself, try to understand himself as unlimited forms, he's already again increased. He's already again expanded unlimitedly. So it's even impossible for Krishna to even understand himself. So there was a lot of discussion on this about Lord Brahma is saying that he can't even approach or realize the light emanating from the lotus toes of Krishna, right? So he's stating this himself, even though he's like Guna Avatar, There's we discussed this Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, the Hindu Trinity, but is the Supreme Lord manifested in the mode of passion. And he's saying that he can't realize everything about the Supreme Personality of God fully, even though through realization through his heart, he composed Brahma Samhita from his realization that he's Krishna is the supreme controller, and Krishna's form is that of the blackish monsoon cloud, and resembles many millions of cupids. He's being served with love and affection by hundreds of millions of Lakshmis or gopis. Like that. He's describing Seshanaga, and he's describing like the material universes and their characteristics and details, and the spiritual worlds, spiritual planets, and the process of bhakti devotional service. So that's the way Krishna wants to be approached, is through the spiritual master. So he's saying he doesn't even know Krishna fully, but he's being accepted as one of the 12 Mahajanas. We were just discussing that. It was Brahma, Shiva, Swambhu, Narada. Let's see, there's 12 of them. Yamaraj. Was it Janmani? Who? Oh, Prahlad Maharaj, Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj, what's that? Yeah, Janaka Risha, Bhishma, Kapila. Yeah, so there's 12 of the Mahajanas, like 12 authorities in the devotional service. And Kapila Dev gives a great description of devotional service and the analytical study of the material universe in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Bali Maharaj, he offered everything. He rejected his spiritual master. Sukacharya was saying that Lord Brahmana Dev is Vishnu, so don't give him anything, right? As a dwarf Brahmana, he was just asking for 3 steps of land, but then he expanded it larger than the size of the universe and took the whole universe in 2 steps. So where should I put my 3rd step? Bali Maharaj surrenders his head, says, on my head, like that. So Bali Maharaj, he offered and surrendered everything, rejected his spiritual master Sukacharya. So there's some talk about Sukacharya. He was like the household priest, the advisor to the king, to Bali Maharaj. So he'd be losing his position if Bali Maharaj lost everything. So he wanted to retain his position. So that was the whole thing with Sukacharya. But they're saying that Krishna is known in 3 aspects of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So certainly the devotee knows that. He knows that Krishna is Brahman, and that he knows that Krishna is localized. He's within the heart of every living entity within the atom as Paramatma, and that he specifically knows Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the personality, and that he's the person who possesses all qualities. There's Jai Gaur Nitai Ki Jai, possesses all 6 qualities in fullness. This is the meaning of Bhagavan, is that he's all riches, all beauty, all fame, all knowledge, all renunciation, and there's one more that I mentioned. Wealth, strength. Strength is extraordinary strength. So anyone who possesses all these qualities in fullness, he's Bhagavan. Someone may possess some of these qualities, but not in full, or not all the qualities. Someone could be beautiful, somebody could be rich, somebody could be strong, somebody could be famous, somebody could be renounced, somebody could be knowledgeable. You might be able to have all of those things, right? But not in their fullness. Not in completeness. There's even like, what was it, the richest man in the world, Howard Hughes, right? But Krishna, that's all his money, actually. It's all Krishna's money, actually. But Krishna is the possessor of all the wealth in all of the planets and all of the universes. So the richest man in the world, he can't claim that he owns all of the money, actually. You know, everybody else's money too. Right? The modern day politicians, I guess that's their agenda. What they've got is not enough. They want everybody else's too. So it's a big cheating process. So, that's the difference between the material world, especially the Kali Yuga, and the emotional path or Krishna's mentality. So he was talking about is when you're talking about Krishna's name, his form, his quality, his guna, like that, is that we can know something about Krishna. And we get that information through the chain of succession. So Brahma, he's giving us information about Krishna, even though he's even saying he doesn't know everything about Krishna, right? But he does have a good wealth of knowledge. And by hearing from our spiritual masters through the disciplic chain of succession, we can know something about Krishna. And we may seem to be maybe very knowledgeable. We can become scholars of Bhagavad Gita, scholars of Srimad Bhagavatam, and seem to know a lot, but there's always some new realization. Like there was, he was from India, Prasad. Right. And he had like the inside scoop. He had like the nectar on like all the different pastimes and activities. And that's what was being discussed in the class that I heard on the lecture last week, is that by hearing and chanting process and hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, especially the 10th canto of Krishna book, then there's there's small details that we come across that someone will discuss. There's more like intimate association and intimate details about that. So in that way, Srimad Bhagavatam, it increases, it becomes realized within the heart, and it continues to expand and increase like that. And like I was trying to think of an example. Maharaj was speaking one time that Rukmini, she's expert in knowing specific omens. There's even a whole book on it. It's like if you get twitches, like a twitch in your right eye or a twitch in your shoulder or your hand or your little finger or your thigh, then that meant something auspicious or something inauspicious, like that. In fact, it was mentioned that was it when Krishna came to kidnap her from to get married, right? It was the Rakshasa style. She didn't want to get married to Shishupal. Rukmini, her brother, had arranged for Rukmini to marry Shishupal, but she didn't want to marry Shishupal, and she sent a note to Krishna to come and kidnap her like that. So it was stated, I was listening to Mahabharata, and this incident was being relayed, and she got a twitching in her thigh, which she knew that something very auspicious was about to happen. So there's a whole science on that. So that's the reason why I mentioned that part about Krishna's friend Madhumangala. He's kind of funny that he was saying like, okay, I'm a Brahmana, I'm superior to you. Right, he's talking to Krishna, and you're a Vaishya. And Krishna was stating his qualifications. Well, when I was just 1 month old, I killed it was the cart demon. It was a ghost and demon. And then he said, I held Govardhan Hill on my pinky finger for 7 days. And Madhumangala, he was saying, well, I did that by mantra. And I actually held up Govardhan Hill with a stick. You just think you held up Govardhan Hill up with your little finger. Like that. So there's these intimate associations, these intimate details like that. And that's the reason why he was expressing that. Is when Srimad Bhagavatam expands within our heart, we become more realized. And what they're speaking here is that according to our hearing and our chanting, that and the degree of surrender and devotional service, then the Krishna, he reveals himself to the devotee proportionately. So you get more and more realization about that. stating when Krishna comes, Krishna does not come alone. He comes with his entourage. And the example is given just like the president of the United States. He comes with his cabinet ministers and his secret police, his bodyguards, right? Secretaries. The press comes along, right? They want to get the inside scoop and stories in the picture, right? And so many people will come out to receive him, to see him, like that. So that's the same thing when Krishna comes. He comes with his intimate associates. In fact, this chapter is called Purusha Shukta Confirmed. When the demigods, they go to Svetamdvip, to the shore of the milk ocean, they chant the Purusha Shukta prayers. And in this way, they precipitate the mercy of the Lord. And they pray to the Lord that the earth is being overburdened by demoniac rulers. And it's becoming a burdensome. So Krishna said, I will come to annihilate the demons. He said, I'll take birth in the Yadu dynasty. So he ordered the demigods and his intimate associates to take birth within the Yadu dynasty. So they took birth within the dynasty of the moon and the dynasty of the sun. And in that way, he set the stage. He set so many of Krishna's most intimate associates were again serving the Supreme Lord personally within their specific capacities. So it's what were they saying? That Brahma's not actually a pure devotee, but it's not required to be a pure devotee to engage in devotional service. They were saying that even though Brahma, he's the Guna avatar, the more the passion, Raja Guna, they're discussing that one millennium Brahma, he did fall down. And I believe there was something I read in Srimad Bhagavatam where Brahma had become attracted to one of his daughters. And he actually chased his daughter, he approached his daughter for sex and actually chased his daughter like that. So as far as I understand, I guess Brahma's not married. I guess if he did, he would have had to have married one of his daughters. So Brahma was instructed that this was abominable, that this isn't what do you call it? It's not pious. It's impious, sinful activity, like that. So it's not proper. It's not proper for the father to copulate with the daughter like that. So this thing had to be given up. So I believe maybe that's the incident that they were referring to. Brahma's fall down. Lord Shiva, he also followed Mohini Murta. And in fact, that's where the gold mines come from. Is that Lord Shiva had desired to see this beautiful form of Mohini Murti, which is Krishna in the form of a woman. And so then the descriptions there is that Mohini Murti was playing with a ball or playing sports, and the wind blew her clothing off. And Lord Shiva saw her naked beauty and became lustful and attracted, and he tried to hold her, and she squeezed out of his arms, and she ran, and he chased her. And when he was chasing her, he actually lost the semen. And so where the semen fell, that became the gold mines. So all over the universe and on the planet, there's these gold. So, and in fact, the gold is considered to be the liquid stool, and people are chasing after this liquid stool, this gold. And there's the yellow stool. That's what they call it. They're chasing after this gold. The gold is very, very valuable. They want to wear it in jewelry, and they want to store it up in banks, and they base their whole economic system on it. And it's so very valuable. They'll risk their lives for it, rob and steal and try to keep it safe. So this is it's heavily criticized like that. So, but that's where the wealth of the world It comes from very valuable metal, soft metal. And so let's see what else we want to say on this verse. So yeah, there's a lot of good things to. Does anybody have a first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam? Maybe we can look up that verse. Yeah, you have a question? Are you able to look up database real quick for this Srimad Bhagavatam verse 1, 2, 12? I was kind of interested in that verse. Yeah. Oh, you have it? Okay.
Thank you, Sri Prabhu. Thank you for your class. So, yeah, I remembered reading that Lord Brahma was married to Goddess Saraswati. And
okay. So I guess I have a wife, the goddess of learning.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Yeah. So he's married to the goddess of learning, Saraswati. Where did Saraswati come from?
Saraswati is, I don't know. What'd you ask?
How she was born?
Oh,
how she was manifest?
No. But she's an expansion of Lakshmi.
Expansion of Lakshmi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. I have a question too, but I can read this verse first if you'd like.
Read the verse.
Tachtra dadanamuna yogyana vairagya yuktaya pashyantyatmani chatmanam bhaktya shruta grihitaya. Translation: the seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's everything that we were discussing. Yeah, so, and Krishna says that it's possible to control the mind by knowledge and by detachment, jnana and vairagya. And so this devotional service is stressed. And in terms of what he's heard from his spiritual master, from the spiritual authorities. Yeah, so that's a great verse. So, yeah, what is your question?
So you're talking about realization earlier, and I was curious when one knows, like, okay, so we have a description of Krishna, Yam Shama Sundaram, that verse in the Brahma Samhita you were talking about, Krishna has a feather, curly black hair, blackish complexion. So we have a description of that. And we also have the deity form. But one can realize that also. So what's that like to see Krishna or?
Well, you can kind of give it a jump start. Krishna will reveal himself to you and that might be pretty exciting. But Narada says it was like thunder and lightning occurring simultaneously. Yeah, but you can, give it a jump start. It's like the deity is not specifically impersonal, but it's not just a form of marble and paint, right? We dress it every day, but there's Agnihotra fire sacrifice. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is present here. So, by understanding that Shastra Chakshusha, seeing through the eyes of Scripture, by seeing that it's not just a deity, right? But Krishna is here, right? In the form of the deity, he's taken this form, is very, very kind. So God is actually present here, right? And so, by keeping that in mind, when you see the deity, it's not just seeing some deity, you're seeing God, that the spiritual presence is here, right? Like that. So, and the descriptions given, Krishna has a peacock feather in his hair, the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, his ever unique loveliness, charming millions of cupids or gopis. He's holding a flute and a lotus flower, right? And it's stated in the verses here in Srimad Bhagavatam that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is sitting on our heart of hearts. He's sitting with the center of the lotus of our heart. Hriddhi, Prabhupada was mentioning this too. The word Hriddhi means heart. So we have the description of Krishna, we have the description of Vishnu, holding the club, wheel of a chariot, conch shell, and lotus flower, and is wearing garments that are as bright as lightning, very yellow, shark-shaped earrings, a detailed, freshly oiled hair, really freshly oiled hair. Right, he always appears fresh as a blooming youth, like that. He's adorned with many costly jewels and bangles and ornaments, and bracelets. You know, so the description they're giving there. So we can apply this to ourselves, right, and visualize this in our heart of hearts. You know, on the lotus of our heart, right. You know, so we can realize it. So we can be practiced in this. Like that, you know. I had this funny dream. I was discussing this. I was talking about chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and paying attention, and, you know, being attentive to it. And I had the same thing in a dream. I'm going, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, you know, and visualize Krishna in your heart, right? And it was a picture of Krishna that I have like on my shelf. You know, there was a store in Rama Lady that only had one picture of Krishna. You know, they have them in different sizes. There was big, you know, 10 by 12, and there was little small ones, and, you know, but it was all the same picture of Krishna. It wasn't a whole different types of pastimes or lila, but it was this specific picture of Krishna. And that's the one I was looking for. You know, Krishna Govinda holding the flute and the lotus flower, you know, like that. I was hoping to find a picture like this. Because that was, you know, so I got one that I could, that, you know, proper size, you know, for me. I didn't need a big one. You know, so, you know, and I was very much pleased to see this story. And he had these pictures. I'm going, I've been looking all over for these. This is great. And they're everywhere. Yeah. So you had a question? Or?
Well, in the respect of seeing Krishna or Krishna being present, isn't it mentioned that Krishna enters all the atoms of within the universe?
Yeah, within each and every atom. Yeah, you can visualize internally Krishna and all the atoms. If you could just visualize the atoms of the molecules. And
so right here, just in the room, right here, there's air and ether.
Yeah, Krishna's in the atoms in those too.
Of those, yeah. So he's all over the space within this room.
Right, even within the space, even though it appears to be transparent. Yeah, he's within the space too. These are all atoms here too. You know, the space, you know, it's just not empty. It's actually form, material. You know,
we're able to breathe in here, so we're breathing him.
Right. Yeah, because that was also mentioned. The eight, yes, Krishna's energy. Yeah. Well, we're taking Krishna's prasad, and that's Krishna. So Krishna is so very kind. He's arranged this mechanical arrangement in the material world, right? But yeah, it's all nothing but him in the ultimate sense. But it's a separating material energies that it's him and it's not him simultaneously. Behold, Krishna's mystic powers. In fact, Krishna cannot be perceived by the blunt material senses, right? He's known as Adhokshaja. Right. And he's Yogeshwar, the greatest mystic yogi, like that. So they were also discussing the 8 material ingredients: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. And Brahma's manifesting these into the universe and arranging them in a way that we have the planets and the air and the oxygen, you know, and the what is it? We're breathing out carbon dioxide, and the trees breathe carbon dioxide, and they breathe out oxygen. You know, so there's like the bees are flying around, they're gathering all the pollen, they're getting stuck to their furry little bodies, and they're getting the nectar from all the flowers, and so they're actually pollinating all the other flowers because the pollen is getting stuck to their bodies, and they're getting intoxicated on the nectar. And there's this picture of this bee. He was so intoxicated, and he had so much pollen all over him, and he fell asleep in a flower. Yeah, you should have seen him while he was knocked out. he looked like one happy bee, though. So this is the bees that are surrounding Krishna's flower garland, and they're trying to get the nectar of Krishna's lotus feet. So there's the humming of bees like that around, around the flower garland, buzzing and sounds of the bees, and they're worshiping the Supreme Lord in their way, like that, so, but Papa was saying like this, he was saying that, mind, intelligence, false ego, subtle body, very, very subtle. It's practically impossible to perceive it, although you can perceive it by symptoms like that, or maybe something about it, but you may know like, the inner voice of your own mind or your own intelligence, but you're not going to really know a whole lot, an awful lot. Maybe incidentals, but not, other people's thoughts and feelings, like that, or their plan making, what I mean? But you can kind of tell by symptoms, somebody's thinking or scheming something up, or what they're kind of thinking, or, a few little coincidental incidentals here and there, all of a sudden you say the same word at the same time, the same phrase. What I mean? I was just thinking that, but so then there's the ether, right? And Prabhupada saying first in the sky, right? There's no sensation, no perception, right? It's just open sky, open space, right? You have the ether, so you have sound. So perception starts coming in. There's air. You have is it touch sensation, the air, and then with the light you can see, and the water taste, and from earth you have aroma or smell. And that was reminding me of verse like, the body, was it the senses are superior to all matter, or more superior to the senses of the mind, and more superior and subtle than the mind is intelligence. And then above that is he, the soul, like that. So it's the symptom of the soul, it's consciousness, like that. So, that's, but yeah, they're all atoms. It's not that this is actually like vacant, but it's actually a form. It's a subtle form, but yeah, these are all atoms too. And Krishna is Paramatma within all the atoms everywhere. In fact, what was it? The scientist is saying, Einstein is saying that matter, solid matter is really, it's all slowed down light. They're talking about like the actual speed of light. And what is this, like 8 million or 800 million miles a second? All these atoms that are vibrating, the protons and electrons, and they're vibrating and moving so fast that they, accumulate and form molecules, and all these different molecules, either water molecules or oxygen molecules, hydrogen molecules. They're saying water is H2O. H2O. So 2 atoms of hydrogen to 1 atoms of oxygen. And then water is just the other way around. It's O2H. 2 atoms of oxygen to 1 atom of hydrogen. So like that. So they understand this like that way. They're saying, okay, make the scientists, in order to graduate the university and become a licensed or an acknowledged scientist, they have to perform some specific procedures. And one of the procedures is to create some water. So it's not like they're creating the water, but they have to be expert in combining the oxygen and the hydrogen together to form water. Prabhupada was saying that the scientists, they think life comes from matter. He says that he has his disciple, Srup Damodar. He has written one book. He travels to the university and he says, okay, if you think you could create life, we'll give you the chemicals, right? We'll give you the chemicals and then you create life. But that's impossible. They can't do that. like that light comes from life, not matter. So yeah, these things are discussed in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, so we understand these things too. Yeah, does that answer your question? Yeah. Were there any other questions or comments, or maybe we can end class there? Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam class, Ki Jai.